I'm here today with June Jewell, the president of AEC Business Solutions, because we're both speaking at the Architect Success Forum later this month. And for those of you keeping score, June's talk will be on September 23rd at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't heard about the Architect Success Forum yet, it's a 5-day virtual event for architects around the world. I'll include a link to the website below. But over the course of 5 days, there'll be 12 sessions, and all of them will have Q&A at the end to make sure that every architect that attends will get the most out of the sessions and be able to apply what's presented specifically to their own firm's success. Now, I know June, and I know that she's devoted her career to helping A&E leaders transform their businesses to ensure maximum success and profitability. So I'm looking forward to her talk. I always appreciate June's work because her training and the systems and processes she helps implement dig deep. So, and not only to help the firm leaders, but also project managers and the technical professionals as well. So June, your talk is getting your employees to think and act like owners. So why don't we start with this? If I'm the leader, even the owner of an A&E firm, what symptom would I recognize as I look around the office that would tell me that I need my employees to think more like owners?
I think the big symptom would be that they're overly focused on just the technical delivery of the project, the design, and not really very concerned with the business side of it, whether it's profitable, are we on budget and schedule, but more just getting that design really nailed down.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because they're the professionals, they're trained, this is their craft, so to speak. But as probably just about every speaker at the Architect Success Forum will touch on, there's this bigger piece to the business of architecture. And that's one of the reasons that I really like your topic is that even though, let's just assume that the majority of people watching your presentation will be architects or somehow involved in an architecture firm, there's more than just design, right? There's more than just satisfying the client, even, I guess we could say it that way.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
go ahead.
Well, and I've been doing this for a really long time, and those architects that do really learn how to nail down the business side of things have a much more profitable company.
Right. So are there any simple techniques, when you walk into one of those firms and you start this conversation with the leader, the owner, whatever their title is, what's the first thing that you look for when you're looking at their business?
The first thing I look for is to see whether the leadership team is all on the same page. Because if they're not, it's going to be really hard to make any progress. And I think that's really the biggest thing holding a lot of them back, is getting them all to agree on the best path forward.
That's a really interesting comment, and it makes sense in what I do. When we're talking about branding and marketing, business development, we talk about alignment a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Aligning the messaging and the culture and all of those things. So it makes sense that they've all got to get on the same page. Once you get there and you look around, and let's assume that they all, for the sake of our conversation, let's assume that they can agree to the same path forward. What's a pretty typical first step?
Well, our goal with getting employees to think like owners is to get, once you've got the leadership team on the same page and you talked about alignment, now we got to align the employees. So what I'm looking to figure out is what is going on with the employees. And so I actually do a business management assessment, which is an anonymous survey that asks the employees about 160 questions.
Wow.
Very detailed about how the business is running. And I found that over the years, most firms don't ask employees for their feedback that often about business operations. They ask them about other things, salaries and benefits and employee engagement, things like that, but they almost never ask them about business operations. So I can get a tremendous amount of insight into what's really going on in the firm, what's slowing down employees from doing their jobs, maybe why they're not thinking like an owner. And sometimes I can also determine where huge gaps are in their understanding of the business.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's quite a survey, 160 questions.
Yeah.
But it's like I said in the introduction, everything that you do, what I know about what you do is really digging deep into the operations of that firm. So once you go through that survey and you start to identify those gaps, I thought as you were talking about it might be kind of fun to ask if I'm a project manager, in this firm ABC, that you're working with now. What's my first question? I'm not the owner. I'm not, the top layer leadership. I'm just a lowly project manager, so to speak. What's my first question that I have to ask?
Well, actually, all employees have the same first question.
Okay.
And that is, what's in it for me?
Sure.
So if leadership doesn't address that question head on, nobody's going to pay attention to anything they're asking. It's just a fact. They really need to deeply understand how running the business better and making more profit will benefit them. And you would think it's an obvious thing, but it really isn't. It's just not.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense, right? And you already answered my next question, which was going to be, okay, when they ask that, how are leaders answering that question? On one level, you said it, well, if your firm's more profitable, et cetera. But if we take a step back and we say, well, that may not be the actual answer that's given all of the time, how are leaders conveying that? Hey, listen, you get on board with this. We all align with this. We all become more profitable. What is in it for me? Is there maybe not everybody is passing it down in the same way, but is there sort of a takeaway from that?
It's actually changed since COVID started, since the whole crisis, because prior to that, everybody was so busy and growing, and there was a war on talent. And so employees had a lot more choices, and they still do. I still believe that employees still have a lot of choices. They can still get what they want and go where they want. But I think there's an underlying uncertainty in the future based on, what's been going on. And because of that, it's critical that the company has a position of stability. And you can't have stability without having your employees all working and kind of rowing the boat in the right direction. So what's in it for them is to have, a long-term career with a profitable, strong, stable company that is going to be able to pay them well and give them bonuses and career opportunities and possibly leadership opportunities in the future. And I would think, given what's been going on, that would be a great message right now.
Yeah. Well, and as you were saying that, so I was thinking about, thinking back across my 20 plus years working in firms and even helping to manage some firms. And you were just talking about the employees and the choices they have. And I was thinking of all the places that I interviewed over the years of my career, and in all the interviews that I did as a firm leader, I'm not sure I don't think it would take more than one hand. I might not even need all the fingers on one hand to count the number of times that profitability came up in those
Oh,
interview kind of conversations. That's really interesting, to think about that in this context.
yeah, it's very important. I've been working with a client recently to get them to help them redesign their project management definitions. Like, what does it
Mm.
take to be a PM at our company? And profitability is woven all the way through it. And if you don't have that as part of your job description and your incentive plans and everything, you're not going to be in the top tier for sure.
Yeah.
And you may not even be average. You
Right.
could end up being below average if you're not focused.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of firms out there that don't understand that. But in order to be respectful for your time, and I really do appreciate you hanging out with me for a few minutes and talking about this, I'm looking forward to the Architect Success Forum and also, your presentation on the 23rd. So let me ask you one last question. And this is, I told you before, it's a little bit of a mind bending question, but I like asking this type of question because it really gets people thinking. What's the one question about firm performance or profitability, whichever way you want to take this, but what's the one question that most people don't ask? Again, if I'm the firm leader, I'm the firm owner, whatever, what's the one question that I don't ask you when we start talking, but I really should?
Well, it might be, what do I need to do differently?
That's
Because I
interesting.
think, and we all know this, it all starts at the top, but we get into long-term behaviors. And one of the top things that I uncover when I'm working with architecture engineering firms is a lack of accountability.
Mm.
And that comes from the top. And so if I run across leaders that are excited to change, they want to grow, they want to modernize their companies, they don't want to keep doing it the same way they've always done it, then we can make tremendous progress in a very fast amount of time. But they have to be willing to ask that question. How do I need to grow and change and evolve in this process? Because that's really going to make a humongous difference in the results they're going to get with their employees.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense, right? We didn't get here by accident. It may have evolved over time, and we're not going to correct the course by accident either. So it's going to take change. Yeah, definitely. That's I appreciate that answer. That's a really good one. And June, I really appreciate you taking the time to record this conversation with me. And I'm looking forward, like I said, to sitting in on your getting your employees to think and act like owners session. And again, for those listening, it'll be Wednesday, September 23rd at 4 p.m. Eastern. And again, I'll put a link below this video to the website so you can go and you can check out the information on June's talk and also all of the information on the Architects Success Forum. I'm really looking forward to this event. I'm looking forward to your presentation, and I always enjoy reconnecting and talking with you too, June.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, glad to have you. Thanks.